Alex, we're coming up on our start time. You want to go ahead and get this thing on the road?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Perfect. Okay, well, it is just turned 11 a.m. Pacific. It's 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We'll go ahead and get this show on the road, as I just mentioned. I am Mike Margol. I'm the Vice President here at James Publishing. Most of my time is spent talking to attorneys about their marketing and how they can improve their results. And today, I'm really excited to co-host with Alex Valencia, President at We Do Web Content. Alex, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, friends. Yes, I'm Alex Valencia with We Do Web Content. We've been a content marketing agency and digital agency working with only lawyers since 2009. We concentrate on developing a conversion content marketing strategies for law firms from small, mid-sized to large firms. We work with probably 10 of the top 100 law firms in the country. So we're excited about that, and I'm excited to be on. Thank you, Mike.
No problem. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're both really excited to talk about content because obviously content is the backbone of any good marketing strategy, and not just for legal marketers, but just in general. So specifically, we're going to talk today about the content attorneys need to create to attract more clients. We will have a live Q&A after the session as well. So if you have any questions during the session about anything we're talking about, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A box or even in the chat. We'll go ahead and answer those at the end, and we will also send you a recording as well. So don't feel like you need to take notes. We will send you this entire thing at the end. Now, Alex, I'm going to drop my my scheduling link into my chat box over here. Do you have a scheduling link or a phone number that you want to promote in the meantime, just in case anyone wants to get in touch with you?
Sure, let me go in and grab it.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so while Alex drops that in there, we'll go ahead and so this is what we're going to cover during today's session. Obviously, we're going to have, I have a presentation, and Alex, feel free to jump in at any point, and then we can kind of maybe spitball back and forth about, whatever we're talking about here. But content is a huge part of being successful in today's legal marketing world. Obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer, but it needs to be done well and with purpose. So today we're going to kind of explain to you exactly the steps that you should be taking to create the content that's going to fit well with what your strategy is for success. So again, on the screen, you'll see what we're covering today. And this is all forming that comprehensive legal marketing strategy. And that's what Alex and I are really, really excited to talk to you about today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, or at least that I had planned to talk about, was topic selection, right? And this is what we consider the most important thing in all of content creation, because if you have a wonderful response to a poor topic, it doesn't matter. Right? The topic selection is what's really going to drive interest in your content. So you need to make sure that your topic selection is right and ready to go from the start. Now, it's okay to be confused when you're starting out as well. Obviously, there's a lot on your plate. There's a lot of different content topics that you can choose from. So we suggest that if you are confused and you're figuring out exactly where to start with your content, just survey your audience. Obviously, you have past clients. Maybe you have Facebook followers. There's no problem in asking them, hey, what would you find useful when you were back and you were a prospect, right? You don't need to create the entire outline for this content piece, but go ahead and maybe make a title, make a 2-3 sentence outline, and then you don't need to think through the entire piece, but just make sure you have enough content topics that your surveyed audience can respond. And you want enough topics, of course, let's say a dozen, where the highest ranked topics will be the ones that are easily discernible as those that are most applicable to your audience, right? If you only have 4 topics, they might all come out with the same number, and that's not really helpful for you. So, Alex, do you have anything you wanted to say or chime in about content selection with topics specifically?
Yeah, and I agree. The topic selection can always be a little difficult and mundane. So I think what you want to do is step back a little bit. Maybe, I kind of go into one of my slides, it's spy on your competitors a little bit. Also, I love that you commented on surveying. If you have a chat feature, or if you're using analytics or anything on your site to see and what people are asking, your intake department is a great way to survey. Your chat and your forms, those post tons of questions that people are asking that you can add and create your content strategy and then start adding to your topic list.
Fantastic. Yeah, I like that. The spy on your competitors. I think that's really important too. All right. So the best topics that we think, you want to cover some common ground and think about, the people that have a major problem and the solution you're about to pose, right? This is the common ground you want to hit. So The topics you want to generate are for these folks who have not yet retained legal counsel, but they have a sizable problem that warrants your help, right? They need your help. They know they need help, but you need to step in and prove that you are the attorney for them, right? So something like you see on the screen here, mistakes to avoid. I mean, that's a really easy content topic, and that's a surefire hit as well, because when you're thinking about this person, put yourself in their shoes, right? If they are the type who says, do I need an attorney? Well, what if I try to do it myself? Am I going to screw up everything in my life? And don't hold back when you're talking honestly to these folks. Let them know that, yeah, if you don't hire an attorney, you could really ruin your life. This is really important. I have the expertise. I'm the expert here. Come to me. I'm going to show you how to walk through this. So those are the types of things that you can do to sort of generate interest in your content. And you want to not target the do-it-yourselfer, because obviously the do-it-yourselfer isn't the type of person who's going to hire you, but write for them. Demonstrate your expertise. Prove that you're the expert to the do-it-yourselfer. The people who aren't do-it-yourselfers but really want to hand off their problem, those are the folks that you're really going to connect with that content. Alex, do you have anything on the topics about solving problems?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple additions to it. So one thing that's been proven is when you add a number to any of these really good topics, it enhances it in search, and it just, it can, if you do it like this, it could generalize it. Also localizing some of it. There are certain sections here that I do agree with Mike with where you want to get down and dirty with your expertise, but you want to pull back in some of them. So bankruptcy, business lit, and estate planning are all going to be very, very expertise and super granular when it comes to your knowledge. The other practice areas, I would say I would not write anything above a 9th grade level. It's better for search and it's way better for the user. Truthfully, the goal here is to have them pick up the phone and call or fill out a form. So when you're writing, and this is a problem we encounter with a lot of our law firms when they're editing or trying to review content, is I've been doing this for 15 years. The way that you're going to attract people in search, you got to write to the user, never to your peers, right? There should be content on your website that's written towards your peers, but in certain situations, you want to bring down the level of reading and make it simpler, breaking it up with bullet points, several subheadings, images, really break up the content and make sure that user is actually going through the whole page, because you want the user to be on site long enough to either pick up the phone and call or go to another piece of content.
Exactly, yeah. And Alex, you're obviously the expert in on-site SEO. So for those who are watching, obviously what James Publishing does, we're not involved in search engine optimization, but Alex is an expert in that. So when he's talking about things like how you're going to generate traffic for your website and that type of thing, Alex is the expert on that. So Alex, everything you said actually kind of flows into what I was going to say next. So let's go ahead. You hit the nail on the head with pretty much everything. So it's about, addressing major concerns, first of all, and going back to the good or bad topic selection. Any topic with a low worry factor is not going to generate the interest that you need to generate traffic and interest in your firm, right? So we're going to target the prospects that have the sizable issues, they've not yet retained their legal counsel, and then answer in detail. So the more information you provide, the more of an expert you're going to seem. But like Alex said, don't talk over their heads, right? This person, let's imagine they have maybe a high school education. Of course, they can learn through your content, but you don't want to slam them with legalese and jargon that is more applicable to, let's say, your peers, like Alex mentioned. So that's really important too. And one of the things, Alex, I hear a lot is, hey, no one's going to read an article that's so in-depth. How do you respond to that?
I agree. Sometimes it is. I love the sites that add a timer on the article. Like I said, it goes back to the practice area, right? Business litigation, you're gonna get a reader, right? They want information. Personal injury, you want to make sure you're capturing the person in probably the first 2 paragraphs, and they may not read all the way through unless you're going into a case study. Social Security disability, again, that's one of those practice areas where you can really kill it with case studies and showing examples, because people want to know, what am I the type of person that can potentially get approved, right? For Social Security. Estate planning, we went through this as a family not too long ago, and I love the in-depth articles. Like, I love that I could skim through it. If someone wanted to read it, they could really get in depth with it. Business litigation, right? That's more of a B2B. Obviously, you're working with businesses, their level of reading, they want to educate themselves. It's more contractual. So you want to make sure you're really diving deep. Bankruptcy, same thing. So, it goes 50-50, depending, it really depends on the practice area and who you're writing to. But, when someone reads through and goes through the full article and goes to another page, those are definitely goals, and there are separate pieces of content and types of content that you can create that do specifically that. So we want them to read it. But again, our goal for the law firms that we work with is the quicker we can grab them and convert that, the better the conversion is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention too, we're writing for the skim reader, right? There is a portion, of course, of those folks who will go and read those in-depth things. Like you mentioned, business litigation, someone like that, they're going to read that entire article. But for everyone else, just write for the skim reader, right? Are you using headings? Do you have graphics? Do you have recaps at the end of each section? Like, these are the things you want to think about, right?
Exactly.
For answering questions, make it as simple as possible. And then you've had a lot of experience as an attorney answering questions, so this should be second nature to you. It should be pretty easy for you to get that going. So Alex, I have on screen here just some items that we've created for our subscribers, and again, we're just answering questions, and I know that this is a big topic. It's not anything that's rocket science here. We're just answering questions, and we'll talk a little bit more about the marketing amplifier and Alex's services at the end of the presentation as well. Now, another thing that we talk about a lot to our subscribers is when you're thinking about how can you generate content, talk about past cases, because that's highly persuasive to your prospect, right? So whether this person is injured, they're going through a divorce, they're thinking about filing bankruptcy, they really want to understand that you can help. And whether you're doing written content or video content, these past case summaries should really only focus on a single case at a time, right? We want to tell the story in chronological order. So the person has a problem, right? What is the problem? How anxious does this person feel? How good do they feel when they sort of gave this problem to you, when they retained you? And what was the positive case result? So that's sort of the habit we want to get in, right? Every time you have a new fact pattern to discuss, create a new piece of content, create a new video. The people coming to your website want to know that you've helped someone exactly in their shoes. So Alex, do you have some maybe examples from your own SEO writing about this?
We really go down the case studies. What we've learned in 2021 with Google's user experience changing so much, we like to hit something that's potentially familiar to the person within the first paragraph. So I wouldn't say a full case study, but maybe a scenario after you've obviously talked about your location, where you are, what you've done, how many cases you've done. So that's a good opportunity to really grab the person and say, okay, this might be the attorney for me. Let me read further. And that's a good place to write that.
Definitely, yeah. And I just want to show this real quick video too, because we talk a lot about video content as well. So let me actually just play just a little clip of this. I'll actually talk over it, but we're talking about specifically, like Alex mentioned, grabbing someone's attention right away, right? So this video, hey, it's a catastrophic injury. It's also about motorcycle. So catastrophic motorcycle injury is fairly narrow, but that's a specific case result. So if this person, who maybe him or her or they or their family member were involved in this, they're going to know right away that this is the content for them, right? So that's the type of thing that we talk about with video content. We want to grab their attention right away, like Alex said.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great looking video. That does so much for the page too. If you can have that on their YouTube channel, it's engaging. That was well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we'll talk a little bit more about video at the end. But obviously, I think YouTube SEO is an entirely different beast. So maybe we can do a separate webinar someday about the YouTube SEO as well.
For sure.
All right, so talking a little bit about how you can get started. Obviously, getting started is the hardest, right? And that's just not about content creation. It's about literally anything. Taking the first step is often the most difficult. Alex and I were actually just talking before the session about running and getting back into running. And it's the hardest part is getting out the door and doing the first mile, right? The other miles come easy after that. So we want to get started with what you do and know best. And most people gravitate toward either speaking or writing. Maybe you're better at writing, maybe you're better at talking to a camera. You just don't want to overthink it, right? And don't aim for the stars with your very first piece of content. You can step in and get in the routine. You will improve, much like running or anything else, playing guitar or practicing music, being a sports person. any of that will improve given the routine. And the more frequently you do it, the more you're going to improve at it. Now, obviously, Alex's writers are experts and so are ours. So we've both done this quite a lot. So when you're coming to someone like, We Do Web Content or James Publishing, the writers we're talking about and the video creators we're talking about have done this extensively. So obviously you can rely on our expertise. But for you, like Alex mentioned, if you're doing this on your own, the person that we're targeting, imagine they only have a high school education, right? Again, we want to sort of hammer this home that you don't want to leave this person in the dust with your knowledge. That's not the point. You want to demonstrate your expertise, but also guide them along, hold their hand through the process. And Alex, I know you already touched on this, but is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, you nailed it. That's it.
Perfect. And then sort of staying top of mind with leads too. So when people come to the website, obviously that's fantastic, right? But there's a lot of people who are not going to retain you just from the first time they see your website, and that's okay, right? There's a huge swath of people that won't do that. But a lot of attorneys that I talk to don't have any follow-up procedure in place for those folks. If they're not scheduling that initial appointment or that consultation, what are you going to do to help nurture those folks along so they get to the point where they do want to do that for you? So a portion of these people will eventually sign, but you can't just abandon them. So you want to deliver content that's informative, you're demonstrating your expertise, it shows you are ready to help. And for our subscribers specifically, what we use is a nurturing email campaign. So over a dozen letters, if this person isn't ready to set that consultation after a week or 2 weeks or even a month or 2 months, they're receiving continually drip-fed educational content. Because again, when we're talking about content for the legal realm, we're talking about demonstrating your expertise and building trust. So this is an ongoing process. Alex, does We Do Web Content involved in sort of nurturing campaigns and email series as well?
We do for some, but that's a further conversation for the partnership that we're going to dive into. But yeah, we recommend it. I mean, you spend so much time driving traffic and investing in content, investing in SEO, PPC, everything you do. And so much gets lost once it comes in, right? The email nurturing campaign is such an easy thing to do, an intelligent thing to do, especially for the forms, right? You've already captured their email. They should immediately be getting an email, if not with a video, a written, and fall into a funnel to help convert that person. Especially in the practice areas where it's more of a decision-making, like criminal, family, estate planning, they should be getting tons of content that will persuade them to move to the next step. And you've probably already created it, right? So it's just a matter of repurposing it and reusing it and working with someone like James Publishing to put that campaign in place, because you're missing out, right? It's like making the investment and just not nurturing it. It's almost a waste of money because you might be losing and leaving opportunities on the table by not implementing something like this easy. It's simple.
Yeah, it's simple. It's time consuming, but it is absolutely.
It is definitely time consuming.
Yeah, that's really the big rub there, right?
It is. It is. I know it for sure because we do it for ourselves. We work on it. We change campaigns. We test campaigns. I can only imagine a law firm trying to do it. That's why, it's important to figure out exactly what it is you want to outsource. And I believe that's one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. You probably hear this all the time, but there's never enough hours in the day for a law firm to get everything they want to do done.
No.
And that's where, We Do Web Content and James Publishing can really step in and help. So like Alex mentioned, you've already created a lot of this content. So again, if you want to do it yourself, you've probably already done it, right? We talked about, writing content. We talked about maybe filming videos for past case results, something like that. So you can use them in a nurturing email campaign. Don't be afraid, vary up that stuff. And don't forget to include a call to action as well. We really focus on education at James Publishing in terms of, you want to educate your prospect, make sure that they trust you and understand what their problem is so that they understand exactly how you're about to help them solve it. But don't forget a call to action too. Once they trust you, encourage them to pick up the phone. Like Alex mentioned, the point of SEO specifically is bringing people to your website, right? We're trying to convert them so that they do pick up the phone and call you. They need to trust you for that though. And Alex, obviously that's a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, agreed. Yeah, you got to create that trust factor, and delivering that content and nurturing that client afterwards is a huge deal. So it would be a missed opportunity not to.
100%. And all of this as well should be automated. So again, if you are interested in doing it yourself, use an automated system. Don't sit there and press the send button every time you're sending an email. Alex is shaking his head. I can see. You got to use a system like MailChimp or Constant Contact or SendGrid or Drip. There's tons of them out there, and they're cost effective. So I recommend checking those out if you're interested in doing it yourself. In terms of obviously nurturing series, yeah, we're answering questions. We're hitting the biggest topics possible, so we're covering the most common ground. I mean, these are just basics 101 about content. So Alex, I've kind of reached the end, and I'll talk just for a minute about our marketing amplifier. But after this, if you want to get going with your presentation, then we'll kind of spitball back and forth again, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Perfect. Okay, great. So for everyone, obviously, Alex and I both mentioned that these efforts are really time consuming. Again, there's not enough hours in a day. I've talked with law firms where they've had content creation on their plate for literally a year or more, and they say, holy smokes, I wish I would have done this sooner, but of course there's not enough hours, right? So if you need help with this type of thing, our marketing amplifier program can help. It's a done for you system. We're really designed to take the time away from your desk and let us sort of have that burden, right? So we don't only do video creation, we do lead magnets, we do nurturing email series and reassurance email series for new clients. We have past client newsletters, we do referral partner building. We have mentorship, we do review solicitation. So there's really a lot that's involved in the program. It's $6.95 per month for a 3-month commitment. The first month is just $1, so you get a chance to step in for 3 months for the price of 2. If you like it, there's no long-term commitment. And of course, we'll be around to help you out with that. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my calendar link inside the chat once more. If you do have questions about the Marketing Amplifier program, please feel free to schedule an appointment with me. I would love to speak with you one-on-one. After that, Alex, I'm going to go ahead and drop it off to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen here. So today we're going to talk about building a 24/7 marketing machine with your website. And the way we imagine doing that, and the way it's been working for us and our clients, is by developing a content strategy and writing the right content that's going to convert and drive leads, drive that traffic to your website, first of all, and then turn that traffic into potential leads, potential cases, and then continue nurturing it like we discussed with Mike here. So, why is content so important? Well, content, like we discussed earlier, is the backbone of every marketing strategy, not just the legal marketing strategy, but every content marketing strategy has to have content. I mean, 2021 was the obvious year that we were all consumers of more and more content. I think, a webinar last August 2020, where they did research of the different age groups that were consuming content and where they were consuming it. And the internet, had blown up. Obviously, TV channels like Netflix spends billions of dollars on creating new content. So, we know we are in a content focus, in a content consumership. You see the rise of social media, you see the rise of websites, mobile. So it's important that you're creating the same thing, and it's a big market that you're competing in, and you want to be the first one, or at least, reverse engineer what your competitors are doing to get involved in the game. You don't want to get left behind. So content is obviously the backbone, and you got to be consistent with it. So here's some numbers that happened just shortly after the pandemic that I thought were impressive. So 52% increase in content marketing all throughout. Paid social media increased by 71% because pay-per-click increased in price significantly. So law firms, marketers, other businesses decided, where am I going to put the money that I know it's going to create a long-term asset? It's not just a sunk cost. So one of those areas obviously is content marketing, SEO. It's just one of those areas that keeps on giving. 42% increase in email marketing, display advertising. The display advertising is used great for remarketing when people are visiting your website and you're considering nurturing them. You could be using lead magnets that that we're creating, or Mike and James Publishing are creating, to use that display advertising to drive people and fall into email marketing. They're just different verticals that you want to start considering with the growth of your law firms. Here's some additional numbers that we found. 55% of lawyer marketing, content marketing, increased web traffic to websites. 67% of which marketing increase leads. 67%. Hold on, there's this thing here. Leave chat keeps popping up. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. Forgive me. I want you guys to see those numbers because they were really impressive. I got it. This is just in the way here. So if you guys can see those numbers, 74% of consumers who visit a law firm take action. And this number's not on here, but from what I understand, they visit 3 other law firms. So kind of like to Mike's conversation, you want to be that law firm that's delivering that extra piece of content. What's that oomph? I remember doing a survey back, and a lot of people don't do mailers anymore. I think 20% of the people chose a law firm after they visit them online because of the mailers they received. Mm-hmm. So that's something to continue going.
Yeah, I think differentiation is really critical, right? What makes
for sure. You want to differentiate, especially in such a competitive space. I've known these numbers, but they might be surprising to you. Only 26% of law firms maintain a consistent blog, and we can talk about blogs if we have time. So try to remind me. Okay. And 7% of attorneys maintain a blog but we'll talk further about blogging and what my ideal on that is. If you're not gonna write service page content or frequently asked question content, then by all means do blog. But we'll get into what my thought process on blogging is. So let's talk about how to turn the machine. What kind of content can we be creating to turn your law firm into a 24/7 marketing machine? But first, we want to define the goals, right? Goals. What are your goals to driving traffic? What is it exactly that we want to do? Do we want to increase organic traffic? We want to collect emails. We want to grow your social following. We obviously want to create authority. Google has something called EAT, expertise, authority, and trust. It's the idea of how you should be creating your content. Promoting a scholarship. We promote and write several scholarships twice a year for law firms. On our end, on the SEO side, it's a link building strategy, but it's also a way for you to localize, help other people, put yourself out there and brand yourself. And those are great opportunities to grow. Obviously, get more clients. This thing is fickle.
It looks good though.
Yeah, thank you. Did I finish that one? Let's see. Yeah, and obviously gain more referrals from your content. The second goal, we want to do an audit. So before starting any kind of writing and topic development, and this is going to be very helpful, it's going to help with what you currently have, what topics you're going to raise in the future, is figure out how much content you currently have, where it's coming from, what is it, who wrote it, how it's performing, right? How's it ranking? Is it currently driving traffic? Did it ever drive traffic? If it hasn't driven traffic to your website in the last 6 months, we got to let it go or rewrite it. Is it converting, right? Do we need to revamp it? Again, 2021 has been the year of revamping all content that's been written on one's website. So it's a lot of work. If you got 1,000 pages and only 500 of them are developing and driving traffic to the website or converting anything, then we need to go back and look at those, maybe work on the meta descriptions, change that first paragraph like we talked about, make sure we're grabbing the user. So we can talk further about revamps, and we've been doing a lot of that this year. Are you currently blogging? Do you have FAQs? Like Mike talked about those different topics. Those are different things that you want to do. And then we talked about surveying and figuring out what your clients are asking. So have an audit of your current content. And if you don't have anything and you're starting from scratch, then maybe possibly audit what your competitors are doing. This is kind of just a slide that tells us exactly what Google wants or doesn't want from content. So, here we go. Make pages primarily for the users and not the search engines. become so intelligent. Google's so smart that it knows intent. It knows what potential questions we might ask. It might reword our query when we write it in there. So just so intelligent that when you're writing for the user, to keep in mind, making sure you're using those terms and localizing. I keep saying localizing because it's too hard to compete nationally. So if you're a local law firm, make sure all your content is localized. Avoiding any black hat or any tricks or anything that you might think to do to move content around or to create content. So think about what makes your website unique and then write to the user based on that. Keyword research, there's so many tools for this. This can fall really in depth. So these are all the steps you want to take, to start creating the content for this marketing machine that we're going to create and that 24/7. In the SEMrush, obviously Google's keyword planner, Google Intent, Moz, there's just so many tools out there that we use. If you're doing AdWords, you can see exactly what keywords people are clicking. You should have organic content for that. And the reason organic content is so helpful is because once it's written, once it's on your website, it's working for you. That's your 24-hour salesperson. I've had clients contact me and said, remember that Ithaca page we wrote? Well, it's generating tons of leads from it, right? And he's like, we don't even have an office there. And that's another big competition, right? Lawyers compete for the localized space based on where their actual location is. You don't have to have a location to write a page. You don't want to game the system and start buying or leasing all these little offices everywhere, because Google realizes exactly what you're doing, but you can create content and it's a lot more cost effective to do so. So, when you're doing that keyword research, it's important that you start with the terms that you believe your potential clients are asking, also the terms that your competitors are using. Review the search volume. You don't want to look for terms that have low search volume and write content for pages that don't deliver much. Think of freak opportunities. We write for a couple personal injury lawyers where we dug deep and started doing hotels that people might slip and fall in, Walmart stores, Targets, right? Get super specific. If you live in an area where there are theme parks, those are great opportunities to write about those accidents. If you're a personal injury lawyer, there's different ways and topics that you can start creating. And then, obviously step 4 is look for the terms that are currently ranking either on your site or competitors and start enhancing those pages if possible.
Yeah, it's so important to have a plan before you get started.
Exactly. So, one of the talks that we have all the time is developing a content strategy. I have a article that we wrote a couple years ago on Search Engine Journal, the 4 pillars of creating a legal marketing strategy. So, you can't move forward without it, right? Everything should have a plan. You wouldn't build a house without a plan. That same goes for your website. Same goes for all of your marketing. Spy games, we touched on this a little bit, how to compete, how to check on your competitors and see exactly what they're doing. We also talked about taking a survey. When Mike was talking earlier, we discussed, chat history data, your web forms, your intake forms, social media, ask questions on Facebook. How are people searching for you? What are they actually looking for? And then creating that plan, right? After we do that, we plan, we create a calendar, and then we start parsing it out, interviewing writers, interviewing editors. Our goal, we have 7 people touch one piece of content here. Your goal doesn't have to be as aggressive, but don't just let a writer edit their own content. You always should have an editor. You should always have a fact checker, should have a reviewer, making sure you're putting out right content, especially in the legal space. And then, obviously, where do you distribute that content? And we all know by now we're all familiar with it. Your website, your blog, social media, repurposing that content. This is really what we want to talk and teach here is where do you want to deliver that content and create a plan for it. Everything should have a plan. And if you've already created it for your site, make sure you're reusing it, repurpose and reuse. So now developing the lead generating content. And this is the whole point. This is going to be your money pages. These are the pages that are going to drive traffic to your website. And we talked about this. This is not so much an SEO strategy, but kind of touching on what Mike said. Emails are a great opportunity to generate a lead magnet for, and start grabbing the people that may not be coming to your site, or the people that are, nurturing them, right? Adding a pop-up, just giving free information. And this doesn't go for every practice area. We've written ebooks for different law firms. A cheat sheet or a checklist, an insurance cheat sheet or something for personal injury, an estate planning guide, exactly what the steps are to estate planning, what to do after filing for mediation or divorce. There's just so many opportunities you can create lead magnets for that you can put out there that is interesting content. Make sure you're always testing your contact forms too. So developing lead generating content, you always want to make sure that you have a robust intake, because once it start driving traffic to the website, you want to make sure you're not losing. You're spending so much money in investing. You want to make sure you're creating content and you're following up with the leads that you're creating, creating shareable content that encourages and helps others. I won't read the last one because it's a lot of content and I think we're short for time, but content marketing helps humanize every lawyer, right? The more you're writing, especially when we talk about, if we have time to talk about the blog, that's where it's your opportunity to humanize yourself, and really talk about your situations, maybe your clients and so forth. So are you content with your content? That's our little homonym joke, but never be just content. There's so many different types of content that you can create. And this is one of my favorite. This has been around for about 5 years, since the saturation of Google when it came along with content, in about 2011. I started this in about 2008. So around 2009, 2010, content was king. Everybody was talking about blog sites were coming up. People were just writing and positioning content. You didn't have to use SEO, but then the system got so saturated that Google obviously was ahead of the game, started putting out algorithms and, Panda, Penguin for links. And they wanted a different style of content, and they wanted something with authority, and they wanted something that answered the question, right? Some people were doing 500 words of fluff as long as the keywords were thrown in there. So it wasn't smart, but it gamed the system for a while, but it won't last forever. So what you want to do these days, and this isn't for every single page on your site, but we call it a 10x pillar page or a 10x page. It's just 10 times the page that is currently ranking on Google on page 1, right? So if you look at your top 3 competitors and you see exactly what they're writing, you're gonna position yourself and write and create a page that answers even more questions. And if you use Google intent with the same topic, it'll show you all the different questions that you can add in there. The benefits are, it's helps sales reps qualify leads, right? It builds trust and credibility, which is what we want. We want that EAT, that expert authority, and trust from our users. It creates a better user experience because usually you have some graphics, and a great breakup of the content allows you to skim through. They generate backlinks and social shares, right? In the SEO world, we want backlinks. We want authority from other sites voting for our content and saying, man, that was a great informational piece of content. And not only does the user appreciate that, but Google obviously appreciates that. So the essential elements of a pillar page is obviously the page title. We want to make sure we have the right topic, the localization, and the keyword that we want to go after. It's open content where it's not gated, or you don't need to drop an email or user to generate it. It's just free to the public, and it hopefully should come up on the featured snippets somewhere, or top 3 positions on Google. Very organized, very clean. I like to have a index at the top of it because they're usually pretty long, 3,000, 5,000 words. So you want to have an index at the top that automatically links to the bottom or the section that you're interested in reading. awesome user experience. If we can add a video like the one that was in your presentation, Mike, that's also very helpful. Call to actions throughout every 2 to 3 paragraphs. And obviously it should be part of your main website navigation. Actually, I think I might, do I have an example here? Let's see, is that clickable? Well, here, HubSpot has one, right? So they kind of break everything up. It's just good. It breaks everything down, and we won't go through the whole thing, but you know, we've created them for law firms. They just can't show a lot of our law firm client content.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that HubSpot is right there with that.
Yeah, they do such a great job generating content. They do. But that was a perfect example of one on how it should be broken down, and it's going to be different for law firm, obviously. Here's what should happen with a 10x pillar page. So we use car accident because of a lot of our law firms are personal injury lawyers. So this is your pillar page. This is how you want to break it down. So within this pillar page, you're going to have the types of injuries, what causes it, FAQs, types of medical products or anything that might be, on any resources. And then you're going to develop a strategy just around this keyword to promote these, right? So these are already in there, but these develop frequently asked questions that turn into secondary and tertiary pages. So this is kind of the cluster of it. These FAQ pages are gold to help support this keyword, but these are additional resources that help and promote this page. FAQs and blog pages, we kind of talked about it. You know, the goal of an FAQ for us is how can we get it in the 0 position? So if we're answering the question and it's offering a good user experience, we want to make sure we're trying to get in there. Using lists, right? We talked about adding the numbers and creating lists when you're creating a topic or FAQ. 36% of readers prefer list-based headlines. Yeah, websites that also blog have more index pages. It's just blogs keep creating those breadcrumbs on a website, so it allows for more pages to get indexed. The more pages index has, you're in Google's index, the more opportunities you have to get searched, and the more often they come and crawl your website. And you know, for us all lawyers, you know, 49%, and I think the numbers are actually higher, claim that they've gotten results because of blogging. I know one client he was an old client. He did so well on his own that he fired us, but he did a really great job creating his blog. His whole website is just an amazing family law blog. And he generated really great clients from it, the ones that he wanted, high-end clients. So, you know, that's definitely a testimony to him and clients that decide to do it on their own just by creating that little niche.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned too, it's a great chance to show off your personality. I mean, that's
right.
Perfect.
So your practice area pages, your estate planning page, your car accident page, your bankruptcy or your drug crime page, these are all pages that are needed, and you give you opportunity to target different locations, cover just that specific practice area. So you're capturing Google and giving the user exactly what they want. You know, the car accident, the brain injury, the do I add my child custody page, right? You know, using the word user, attorney or lawyer throughout the page is great for the SEO. Although the semantic search says that Google recognizes it, it doesn't help it. It doesn't hurt it. It also helps the semantics of your website and also breaks up using the word too often because you don't know exactly how people are searching. Obviously use content or video. The long form is kind of what we discussed. You know, I wouldn't do anything less than 1,000 words, but again, Google doesn't say and doesn't talk about word count. It just says it wants you to offer value. If you can answer the question within 300 and 500 words, then you've appeased Google and the user. Obviously, case studies, ebooks, and video are great for converting. We talked about this. And we want to make sure, you know, if you can be using video, it's just has such a conversion rate. It helps with SEO. I wouldn't say just video alone, but if that's all you like to do, you know, go after YouTube and make sure you're posting those videos on a website, answering questions, and maybe hire a transcription company and create a blog out of it. So localizing your content, right? We talked about localizing your blog content. Everything should be localized. You really want to capture your local area. Otherwise, you're just competing. I've got clients come to us where they say, I'm just personal injury lawyer. And you type in personal injury lawyer, you're competing against Wikipedia. You're not even competing under law firms anymore. So you want to get specific with your page titles and exactly what you're talking about. Local information detailed in every page. How do I differentiate every local city? There's the courthouse, there's schools, there's streets. That's how you dive deep into localizing your content. And here's some values that, what we've gotten from some results, right? Clients come to us, they see 2,000% increase in traffic, 286,000 value, right? This value is what Google gives a website based on the amount of keywords that they're ranking for. So this is a monthly value that some of our clients have on their site based on having 3,000, 4,000 high value keywords. 1,500% increase in keywords, it kind of relates, these are all different. Again, 1.1 million organic traffic value. We have a client whose websites rank so well, even with some national terms, that the monthly value is about $3 million. And you start seeing a steady climb. You don't ever want to see anything go too fast, but there's always a steady climb. Obviously, the more content you're adding to a site, the quicker it's going to get indexed. And the only reason you should be doing a lot of content is, first of all, if you have the budget. But if you're competing against someone in your market that has a lot of content that's already ranking, you're going to want to come in and compete and work with that. And we can help you figure that out.
Those are some impressive numbers, Alex.
Yep. Thank you. So that's it. That's all I've got. Hopefully it was helpful. Let me stop my share here. There, look, there was me running again.
It's just the common theme.
Yeah, the common theme.
Okay, so let me go ahead. I will pop open my share again because I actually have a slide where both of our contact information is on there. So let me go ahead and pop that open real quick. All right, and I want to emphasize too to everyone who's watching that the things that Alex and I are talking about go hand in hand, right? You want to drive traffic to the website, and then there's a chance for conversion down the line too. So it goes exactly hand in hand. These aren't competing services, they are complementary services. So if you're not thinking about SEO, you should be. If you're not thinking about how to do long-term conversion for your prospects and nurturing your new clients, you should be. And there's a lot that goes into, obviously, the content game, and that's exactly what we talked about today. So Alex, I had a couple of questions that were sent to me before the presentation, but I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the blog. Do you want to talk just a bit about the blog and how important that is?
Yeah, so through my research for years, blogging's actually been the least where people go, and I think it's been because of the blogging strategy. And attorneys, especially in the legal marketing space, have always been just create content. I don't think they've been educated well enough to just say, don't create content, step back, create a strategy. What are you writing for? What's your goal, right? To do SEO and content correctly, you've got to create the foundation of your content first. Once the foundation of your content is developed and you're driving traffic, at that point, go in and start sprinkling some blogs, but make sure they're specific blogs, maybe answering the question. Maybe we don't have to call them blogs. We can call them FAQs. If there's something you want to get and really show your personality, then blog about it, but it's probably not going to be the one that's going to drive or convert. It may help assist in the content of your website, but it's not going to be a traffic driver. We want to create, and I want you to go back and really think about this. You want to create content on your website that's going to drive traffic, and that's going to take some research. You want to see where the volume is coming from, what the demographics are. There's a lot that goes into creating a piece of content, and it's not just writing and posting it. Then there's the delivery of it, the reproduction of it, the repurposing, and the authority that goes to it. If you cannot create the strategy, if you cannot write the service pages, then at that point, maybe blog, because you got to do something. You can't just sit still and not do anything. You have to put content on your website. So if you're gonna blog, just write some FAQs, create some videos. Once you've developed that traffic that's driving to your website, use your blog, develop a newsletter, send your blog out, talk to people, and humanize yourself. But don't expect to blog for legal, at least in other practice areas or other services and marketing tactics. The blog might be great, but for legal, I haven't seen it work.
Sure, that makes total sense to me. And I think one of the questions I have here kind of flows into that. So I have decent website traffic, but can't seem to convert that into leads. And we talked a little bit about, the lead magnet, obviously driving traffic to the site. And then sort of for those folks who aren't immediately ready to retain you, it's about what can you offer them in exchange for their contact information so you can follow up with them, right? It's not just bringing them to the site. There's a conversion factor there as well. And obviously, Alex, at We Do Web Content, they know a lot about how to convert with their content. So obviously, Alex can speak more to that. And I recommend you speak with him specifically about it because that is something really critical for your site. Now, as far as another question I have here, I'm struggling to come up with content ideas. Alex, do you want to field this one? We talked a little bit about surveying and that type of thing.
Yeah, so I would definitely survey, reverse engineer their competitors. You can, I think you guys will have this slide, so it'll have all the different software programs that we use to reverse engineer other competitors.
Mhm.
You want to see what people are doing. There's no need for you to recreate the wheel, right? You're in a legal practice. People have been doing this. You're going after the same clients. You just really want to take a little bit of the market share for yourself. So go in and see what others are producing. Do a gap analysis of your website. We help clients with this all the time, and see how it compares to that of your competitors. That would be the first step.
Yep, smart advice. It looks like there's just two more questions. First is, do I need fancy video equipment to shoot the videos? No, as you probably saw during our video, we shoot via Zoom, and kind of the pandemic has been, shifting video standards. So everyone is now used to seeing everybody on webcam and Zoom. So it's completely acceptable. You don't need to hire a $15,000 crew to come in anymore. So if you want to shoot with your cell phone, if you want to shoot via Zoom, it's totally fine. You can have someone like us come in and help with the video editing, make it a little more slick like the video that I showed, but you don't need to invest a ton in video equipment. And then it looks like the last question here is, what frequency is best for prospect nurturing emails? We send ours once per week, but as Alex mentioned, a lot of what we're talking about with content depends on the specialty, right? What legal practice area are you? If this is someone who has a criminal problem and they need a lawyer right away, sending an email once per week isn't going to help convert them. Right. You might want to send it every day or even every 6 or 7 hours at that point. Don't feel bad about that. If someone more like an estate plan, maybe that length goes out to every 2 weeks. There's definitely some time involved in that as well. So Alex, was there anything else you wanted to say to wrap up the presentation? That's it as far as the questions that I have.
No, I think that's it. I think everyone's been great. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for posing those questions. Again, don't be afraid to start. Just get started, right? The only no you get 100. What was it? My son said it to me the other day. Said 100% of the time it's no if you never ask or you never try.
That's right. That's right. 100%. So Alex, if you want to go ahead and drop your scheduling link in the chat one more time. I just want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Alex specifically for co-hosting with me. It was fantastic to hear him chat about the SEO, and he's really knowledgeable about content. So again, I recommend contacting We Do Web Content. Contact me. We can all have a discussion about your content strategy and how we can fill in and help. But we will send you a recording of the presentation with all the slides once we compile the footage. And for me at James Publishing and for Alex at We Do Web Content, thank you all very much for staying on with us today, and we hope you found the session informative.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Bye, Alex. Thank you as well. Bye-bye.